Welcome to Tuesdays at 2. I'm your host, RJ. In this show, we take a new ingredient every week. It's going to be an ingredient you can find at your local supermarket, and we're going to teach you how to make a wonderful recipe with it. So stick around and check out the recipe.
Hey, welcome to Swiss Diamond Kitchen. It is Tuesdays at 2. I'm your host, RJ. Today, if you guys follow us, we do a new ingredient every week. Last week, we picked scallops for today, and I promised you I would do something with bay scallops and with sea scallops, kind of talk about the difference, show you what they're both good for. Guys, over here, I've just got some water heating up. So the pans we are going to use today, I've got our 6124C, which is our smaller of the two stock pots. This is our HD line. Excuse me. It is fully coated with our HD nonstick coating, and it is 5.5 quarts, I believe. So I'm heating in right here. I'm heating up water. I'm also going to be using our Big Daddy 12.5-inch Saute pan. We're going to be making a pasta dish in this. I'm going to show you how you can make everything in one dish. This one's going to be big enough. We're going to do, if that pot will hold the whole thing of pasta, the whole pound. I'll go ahead and cook the whole pound so you guys can see what it looks like. To cook for, what's that, 8 people worth of pasta? So you'll have 8 people worth of pasta in here. And I'll kind of show you how big this pan is and how it holds and how the nonstick coating works. And then we've also got our 6632, which is our, again, 12.5-inch Saute pan. So it is a shorter basically a chef's pan. So it's a little bit shorter than a chef's pan, but it's basically a chef's pan. It is very comparable to, as you can see, it's very comparable to our Saute pan. It's just a touch shorter, and it's got 2 handles. Very wide base. It's gonna be great for what we're doing. So guys, I don't think I mentioned what we were doing. I am warming up water over here for a bay scallop fettuccine, and then I'm doing a sea scallop spicy curry. Okay, so basically I'm going to start with the curry. I've got this on here just because I don't have the small lid on this side of the counter. No big deal. I'll make it happen. We're just putting this on there, get the water to warm up so we can do pasta. So let's forget about this side for a second. Let's pay attention to this beautiful pan right here. Let's get started. So I'm going to heat this over medium-high heat.
But wait, before we continue, do me a favor. Click that like button, subscribe to us if you haven't already, make sure you've hit the bell so you get our notifications, and comment down below. I know you don't like everything I do, so let me hear it. Now, back to the recipe.
Excuse me, heating up. I'm going to put a touch of olive oil in here. And so what I want to do is I want to get this olive oil screaming hot, but not smoking. Again, you want to not get to the smoke point with oil. A couple things. One, it starts to taste burnt. 2, more importantly, the smoke point is right below the flash point, and the flash point is where I didn't bring a knife. The flash point is where I should be able to do with this. The oil explodes, and we don't want that. So we're just going to take these tomatoes. I'm going to quarter them and then half those quarters so you end up with chunks. And what we're going to do is we're going to put them in the pot and let them blister down. So we want that to get pretty hot in order to do that. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and put those in there over pretty high heat. I've got it at medium, high to high. There's like 12 settings on this thing. It's not all the way at the top, but it's getting up there. So we're going to cook those until they start to blister, until they start to char. About a minute and a half. We'll give them a stir. We'll go another minute and a half. Oh man, I didn't bring the butter. Can you grab me some butter? Please. Are we not live? Are we live? We're still live. But our app is saying it's not live. Amazon Live is a work in progress. Not just us. The whole thing is a work in progress. So stick with us, guys. We're going to try to get this through. It doesn't seem like we have internet issues. It seems like maybe Amazon is having an issue. But we're going to try to get this through. We're going to try to get everything through. I want you guys to see how this cookware reacts, how it works, how it acts to different materials, how when we cook stuff, excuse me, things are going to char in it, just like it's a stainless steel pan, even though it is not a stainless steel pan. So anyway, we're cooking these tomatoes down. We want to get them real hot, and I want to char them. Actually, just leave them alone for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Don't touch them. While we do this, I'm going to go ahead This is actually for the other meal, so maybe I'm not. Yeah, all right. I'm just waiting for some butter, but that's okay. We have a little bit of time, guys. All right. So what I've done here is I already with these scallops. Thank you. With the scallops, so I don't know if you know or what you know about scallops. So, excuse me, scallops have a little trapezoidal muscle on them. They don't all there. Sometimes they come off in processing, but it's you can feel around. You'll see it's a little trapezoidal coming off the side of it, and it is much firmer. We want to take that off. It'll be not fun in your mouth, so you just want to do that. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking these and I'm patting them dry. Try to get them as moisture free as possible, guys. Like always, I am going to be using 2 pairs of tongs, one for fish, like raw fish, and then one for finished food or fresh food. Black tongs, dirty tongs, right? We don't want to touch anything other than raw fish with these because we don't want to do any cross-contamination or get anybody some food sick or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to take 2 tablespoons of butter. Once these start to char, I don't think we're quite there. No, we're going to go another minute. They are getting close, not quite there. I'm just going to check over here because once this water is boiling all the way, I'm going to get the pasta going so that we can go right into that. So the long part about the pasta, the fettuccine meal, is the pasta. The meat and the sauce are going to cook relatively quickly, within about 5 minutes. That's what we're going for. So these are starting to char on the outside. I'm going to give them another minute or so on this after this flip here. Let them get good and hot. And then we're going to go in with salt and pepper to season them. And then 2 tablespoons of butter. Guys, so this meal is a spicy curry. I'm going to leave the red pepper flake out of it this time. We have a couple people here that don't like their meals as spicy. However, I'm going to show you where to put it in and how much to put in. And I may just put it in anyway because I really like it. But I've been asked not to make the food so spicy. We're gonna find out if this is too spicy with the curry powder and the chili powder. But there shouldn't be anything too spicy in it. All right, guys. So what we're doing now is starting to char. I'm gonna throw in 2 tablespoons of butter. And then this is where, once this starts to melt down, which it's mostly doing, this is where you would add your red chili flakes if you're going to put them in. If you were going to use them, what did I write the recipe for? Half a teaspoon of red chili flakes. It's up to you. And then a teaspoon of chili powder. I wrote optional on the chili powder. I think that the chili powder is not actually optional. I mean, everything's optional. You can cook however you want to in your own kitchen. But the chili powder really is going to set this meal apart. So you're going to put a tablespoon in there, teaspoon in there, teaspoon, not tablespoon, in there. And then you're going to kind of get everything together, mix everything together, get those tomatoes nice and seasoned, make sure that butter is nice and melted. Once that butter melts all the way and you've got everything stirred up together, sorry. You can see we're already starting to get a nice rich red blend. This is going to be a red curry. So yeah, okay, so next up we're going to take the vegetable stock or chicken stock, whichever one you went for. I use chicken stock almost all the time, unless the recipe calls for a beef stock. I just prefer the taste of a chicken stock over a vegetable stock. However, if you want to keep this, well, it's not going to be vegetarian anyway because we're using scallops, but it can be pescatarian, or you can leave the scallops out and have a vegetarian meal if you use vegetable stock. I just prefer the flavor of a chicken stock. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up to a boil and let it simmer. What? How do I have that? Oh, yeah, all right. So this isn't actually going to simmer down until we get the milk in. So next up, we're going to get a can of coconut milk, full fat, do the whole thing. We're not doing a whole can, though. We're doing 1 cup, which is about half of this can. These cans are 15.5 ounces or something, so about half. So, guys, if you don't know, when you open this one's not going to do it since I'm talking to you. When you open it, there's going to be a thick layer of coconut fat on the top. Yep, see? So what you want to do is you want to get there and stir that. See that? If I turn this upside down, all liquid's going to come out, and then this fat's going to glob out of there, and it's going to create a big mess and a problem for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clean tongs, and I'm going to dive down into that coconut fat and try to get it all mixed up here, best as you can. You just want to make sure that when you pour in there, since I'm not using the whole can, that I'm going to get half, or I'm going to get the parts that I want, right? I want the fat and I want the liquid. It's kind of messy in the can. You probably want to do it either with a smaller spoon than this big old honking tongs, or in a bowl. But what I've got there is good enough. Again, you're just going to want to be able to pull the whole thing out, or get both the fat and the liquid, I guess, out without making a big mess. Is always a goal. All right, so we're bringing that up to a boil, which we're kind of already there. The Swiss Diamond cookware with the cast aluminum bottoms, they're such good at heat retention. This pan was already hot, so throwing in cold chicken stock really didn't drop the temperature of the pan too much. As you can see, we're already starting to simmer. We're going to be at a boil here in just a second. Speaking of a boil, we're there on this one. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to remove this pot, which we will use later. Just kind of put it here so it's out of the way and really wet. That's how I like mine. And then we're going to cook. I'm gonna cook a whole pound of pasta. Cook whatever you need. I've got a whole crew of people here that are hungry today, so I'll go ahead and cook all this. Just really more to show you how big this pan is and how much this pan will really hold. Now, a whole box of pasta, like I said, is 8 servings. So make sure you've got the people to eat it, or make sure you're hungry enough if you're gonna. If you can eat a whole box of pasta in one sitting, comment down below, maybe a YouTube link or something. I'm interested in seeing that go down, even if there's no sauce on it. It just seems like way too much. But hey, I was in college. I used to eat a lot of stuff, so maybe you can. Cup of the coconut milk in there. The other thing we're going to do is put in a tablespoon of this curry paste. I chose a red curry paste. You can use green or yellow or roasted red or whatever other ones you guys have seen out there. If you make your own, by all means use that. It's probably better than the store-bought stuff. But we try to do things here you can get at your local grocery store. Brand's not important. Get whatever kind you like, whatever kind you usually use. So you need a tablespoon of that. I'm going to go ahead and just plop it in there. I'm going to go a little heavy, just because I think I'm making a little bit more than the recipe calls for. And curry is delicious. Guys, I don't usually get excited about all the meals I'm going to make because I cook a lot. I've been dancing around the office waiting for this. I'm excited for this one to be ready so I can eat it. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. Is we've got all that in there. So we've got the tomatoes. Let's see. We got tomatoes, the curry paste, the chili powder, the coconut milk, vegetable stock. We got all that in there. We are going to let it simmer down now for about 10 to 15 minutes. I want this sauce to reduce by as close to half as possible. I don't think 10 to 15 minutes is going to get us quite to half, but it should get us down pretty far. Okay, so while that happens, I'm going to focus my attention back over here, see what our pasta's looking like. It's not ready yet. It's all sticky because I neglected it. Guys, your water, your pasta water, salt it. Pour in more salt than you think. When I was growing up, the chef that I learned under told me, go to the beach and take the water and drink it and make it saltier than that. All right, so that's what I've always done. So you want it to be really, really salty water. The salt doesn't really come off. Not too much of it sticks to not too much of the salt sticks to the pasta itself, but it brings over a nice seasoned water. A nice seasoned pasta. And if you ever need to use the water to thin down a sauce, you don't have to worry about putting in just water. You're going to have nice salty water to put in there and really bring out the seasoning. If you're someone that's watching your sodium, salting the water here is not going to bring much added sodium to your diet, and it's a good way to bring seasoning into what you're cooking without adding seasoning throughout the cooking process if you're worried about that. So guys, with anything, although it really doesn't matter with liquid, but with anything, if you're bringing it up to a boil and there's anything in there other than just water, I suggest you stir it from time to time. It's just going to keep everything moving, making sure that making sure that the parts that are boiling are kind of spread throughout. You can see that these pans do a really good job at distributing the heat across the bottom. But we still want to make sure everything's moving, nothing's kind of sticking together. We don't want the tomatoes to burn because they're sitting in one spot. We keep things moving in there. The tomatoes are really less of my worry than a lot of the spices. In this particular meal, there's not a ton of spices, so it's not that big of a deal. But when you're making, I don't know, especially something with, I don't know, if you're doing a stew or if you're doing a soup or a chili, you usually have tons and tons of spices in there, and you don't want them to burn. And I know that you're thinking, well, there's liquid at the bottom and we're boiling that. Yeah, but what happens is most things, not most, a lot of things are heavier than the water in which you're boiling, right? They're denser. So they go to the bottom and then they sit at the bottom, and while they're still being agitated because the water's moving, they start to burn. So we just want us to keep, just keep it moving. You don't have to boil, you don't have to stir it the whole time. Just from time to time, give it a little stir. There's a lot of water back here. Okay. So we're done with this and this and this. It is what, January 10th. So the month is flying by. We're already on the second week of deals. Like I said, make sure you take a look at what we've got going on and keep an eye on that. Click that follow button because I'm coming at you every weekend, or at least as many as I can, to kind of bring you that stuff. We also have a couple of new items that are on the way. We know that we've got 2 boats full of new items that we've not had here before, new products. So I'm super excited to be able to bring those to you guys. It's a little early for me to tell you much about them other than tease you and tell you they're coming, because I want them to land here and make sure everything's right, make sure that stuff came out of the factory correctly. But if it did, we've got some pretty exciting products to bring to you this year. So again, click that follow button and you're going to be able to see that. You'll know when we know, which should be pretty quickly, which is going to be awesome. Excuse me. So I wanted to show you guys this lid. I know, well, in this little camera, I can sure you saw it steamed up almost instantly. And it's because I put a cold lid on a hot pan. But so I've got the steam vent closed right now, and you can see that there's very, very little steam coming out of this thing. If there's any steam coming out of it. No, so you can see there's very, very little steam coming out of it. And what's that doing is the steam vent really does a good job at closing and keeping all of your steam in and keeping everything moist. That works out really good if you're doing some kind of roast, I don't know, chili, something like that. What you want here, though, is you want to open up that steam vent and kind of let all this steam get out of here, because what we're trying to do is we want to reduce this sauce. So in order to reduce it, we've got to get the water out of it. So you don't want it boiling up on top and rolling back in. So honestly, we're just going to take that vent, or take this lid off. I just wanted to show you guys how that lid works. We should be pretty close on the pasta over here. Guys, what's one thing that you want us to cook for you guys? Comment below. Let me know. Is there an ingredient that you've always been scared of, or an ingredient that you don't think that we can get right? Or is there a type of dish around the world that you never really, that interests you? You never really knew how to make it, anything like that? I'll be the first to tell you that I don't know everything about everything. I'm not scared to tackle anything. So if you've got a type of dish down below, if it's something I've never heard of or something I've never attempted, let's attempt it together. Or if it's something that you already know how to make, you can watch me fail and then you can laugh at me. All right, that pasta's right where you want it. So I want that pasta al dente. It's going to continue to cook just a little bit. But when it's done, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and take it out and strain it. Yeah, there's better ways. You can strain it over a sink and over your colander. Our sink is in the other room, so I get to do it this way. But I am going into a colander with a bowl. So why I like that is underneath the colander, it's saving this pasta water that's dripping off of the pasta, which should be, in theory, enough to wet down any sauce that may need to get wetted back down or thinned back out. So we've got, let's change these around so you can see, and I'll put that back over there when it's time. All the beeps, everything beeps at you when you move around here. Okay. Excuse me. So we are switching over to the fettuccine with scallops while that cooks down. So I've made the pasta in the Swiss diamond stock pot. So the next stop is we want to take our bay scallops. Okay. I get these from the local grocery store. Guys, if you have a seafood place you like to go to, by all means, that's going to be a little bit better quality than your local grocery store. Your local grocery store normally is going to have a better quality seafood than frozen. For scallops, I highly recommend trying to stay away from frozen unless you're doing like a seafood stew or something. Anywhere where you're trying to get the fresh scallops, you really want to try. Or anywhere where you're trying to get real good fresh scallop flavor, you really want to go for fresh scallops. Scallops are one of those seafood that really they don't freeze well, or they don't thaw out well. They freeze well, and then if you're going to put them into a stew or something like that, those are fine. But they really don't thaw out that well. The ice crystals really break apart the proteins on them, so it doesn't work real well for a fresh thing like we're doing here. Okay, so what we're doing is with the bay scallops that with the bay scallops that we have here, we're going to heat a tablespoon of olive oil in here, just like we did the other one on our nonstick cookware here. So the nonstick cookware, the fat that we're using isn't to make these things not stick. In fact, the opposite. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to almost stick a little bit and create a little bit of char. So scallops are really good if they have a crispy outside. Bay scallops do that really quickly. You're going to see this meal is going to go together rather quickly, which is good as that one continues to reduce down. Let's see. Okay. So we want to get this screaming hot, but again, not to where the oil is starting to smoke. You want to stay underneath the smoke point for sure. But as high as you can get it without the smoke point, without hitting the smoke point. Then we're going to take these scallops, we're going to pour them in there. And again, if you can hear that sizzling, that's what we're going for. We want them to be hot. And these, get them in there. I just made this a dirty one. All right. That's cool. I got other things. Now I have two dirty ones. Anyway, get them in there and then let them sit for a minute because you want to create that crispiness. They're bay scallops. It's real hard to go in and put them on the fat side as opposed to the round side. You can. Traditionally, that's what you would do, but the bay scallops don't sit that well. They're a lot smaller. Okay, so there's one thing I want to bring up. So the difference between bay scallops and sea scallops, other than one's found in a bay and one's found in the sea, is the size, right? So your bay scallops, you're looking at about that big. They're smaller than a dime around, usually, I don't know, and a half-inch tall or deep or whatever. It's usually about the size of those. Sea scallops are going to be a lot bigger. You can get sea scallops that are going to be, I don't know, silver dollar size. They're pretty big. The ones we get around here, probably, about that big and about that tall. The flavors on them are very similar. The bay scallop is a touch sweeter. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's, I assume it's because where they grow up, right? I assume the bay is sweeter water than the sea, right? Because the sea would be saltier water. But I can't guarantee that. But they do tend to have a little bit sweeter of a flavor profile, which makes them into so they're not sweet though, right? We're not making like sweet crepes with these or anything. They're just a little bit sweeter, which is good for, you'll see, lemon, which is kind of the flavor profile we're going to go for here. It's kind of a lemon, cream, butter, cheese flavor. So I don't know if you can see in here, but we're starting to get a little bit of browning. That's exactly what we're going for. We're going to let those brown all around. Sea scallops are really easy to overcook. You want to cook them hard and fast. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's what you want to do. So the next step is, once those cook, I'm going to take those off of there and put them on a paper towel lined plate, or if you have a drying rack or whatever. We just want to get them off and get them to slow down the cooking process once they have a crispy outside on them, the crispy-ish outside on them. They're not going to be crunchy. You're not going to bite into it and have a crisp shell like you could with a sea scallop if you were having, say seared scallops in a brown butter. Those do kind of have a crunchy-ish shell on the outside. Or shallot, but you know what I'm saying. Hopefully you do. All right, so next up, I'm going to need this shallot. I only brought this baby knife for some reason, so I'll use it to cut. So guys, shallots are a type of onion. They usually are not as pungent as, say, a raw red onion. They're usually a little bit sweeter. They have a more pronounced earthy tone as well. I really like shallots. I tend to use them whenever I can, especially in a seafood dish or anywhere where I want a little bit more delicate flavor than a big red onion. Yeah, okay, red onions, white onions, Valdelias, they're all onions, but they're all way different, right? These are much closer to a red onion than they are any of the others. But again, more of a subdued flavor. All right, so those are clean. I'm going to keep these out. That put away. So we're going to dice these shallots up pretty small. The cool thing about shallots also is when you cook them, they tend to go translucent and soft really quickly. So it's a good way to bring in that onion flavor without cooking for too long or stewing too long or whatever, like you would have to with like a red onion or Valdalia or sweet or whatever. These are going to be able to bring in that onion flavor and bring that texture in a relatively quick amount of time. Which is really good, again, when you're trying to work with delicate pastas or things like that, because you don't want to bring in a big roasty flavor like you sometimes get when you slow cook onions to get where they need to go. All right, so we're doing that now. Next thing is we're going to bring this down to a medium low. We're going to put in for oil, another tablespoon of oil. I'm using olive oil from the store. There are times where I would say you definitely want to use the fancier, more elegant olive oil that ends up costing you twice as much. But I try to stay away from those times, to be honest with you. When you're doing, raw olive oil with bread, stuff like that, like a dipping sauce, by all means, get the best one you can afford. When you're using it as a cooking fat, I tend to think you don't really need to do that. All right, so we're going to cook these, and what we're going to do is we're going to let them soften, but we're not going to let them brown. That's the idea here. Okay, so we just want to get these nice and soft, which is why we turned down the heat here. Go. There we go. Next up, we're going to introduce about a half cup of heavy cream. I know the recipe calls for a quarter cup. I'm doubling this one because we got a bunch of pasta to cook. So just keep that in mind when you see what I'm doing here. So again, we just want them to soften. We just want them to get to where they just start to soften and start translucent. All right, going with a half cup of heavy cream. So what we want to do is we want to bring that up just to the simmer. So my next step is I'm going to take this olive, or this is not olive. I'm going to take this lemon, and I'm going to end up squeezing half of the lemon juice in there. Excuse me. My next steps they're going to happen pretty fast. I'm going to put in a half tablespoon of butter, the juice of this lime. I'm going to add the pasta in. I'm going to stir it. I'm going to throw the scallops in, and then we're going to plate it. Basically, once this comes up to a simmer, we want all that to kind of happen right away. We don't want the cream proteins to break down. Excuse me. But we want them to be able to take in all of the goodness that we're about to throw in. So this shouldn't take too long to bring up to a simmer. I moved it up from low to like medium. Guys, the other thing I'm going to be able to show you with this Swiss Diamond is, so this one, as you know, our curry has been sitting over here just simmering for however long we've been in here. We've been in here about a half hour. So traditionally, you'd be looking at the bottom of this being all stuck, and you'd have trouble, scraping off the bottom and this, that, the other. I'm going to show you when we plate that nothing's going to stick to this. Excuse me. It's almost all going to come up with just this ladle or this strainer when I go to plate it. But what doesn't come up with that, we're going to be able to wipe off with a paper towel. I was amazed the first time I used them. All right, look, guys, butter, lemon juice. Always squeeze lemon juice into your hand, or squeeze it out first, one way or the other. That way you keep the seeds. They're inevitably in the lemon out of what it is you're trying to eat, because there's nothing less fun for me than enjoying a delicate seafood dish and biting right into a lemon seed, which is extremely tart and usually not the flavor that you want or the texture that you want. All right, so pasta's going in next. You can see that our pasta got a little dry in there. So this is where we're going to watch this. If this sauce needs to be thinned out a little bit, we will throw in some of that pasta water that we got. So again, guys, this sauce is not meant to be like a big, thick fettuccine alfredo sauce. I know that we're using fettuccine noodles, but fettuccine is the noodle, not the sauce. It's going to coat it. I'm going to put a little cheese in here, which will help it coat it more. But you're not looking like, the Olive Garden fettuccine alfredo where it comes out and just a glob of white sauce. I know that's good, but that's not. It's not a light sauce, which is what you're going for here. When you're going for fresh bay scallops, you want to have a nice light sauce. Let the scallops show off what they can do. Again, it's not the Olive Garden, and we don't need it to be a big gloppy mess. All right, so we got that. We've turned the heat off. I'm going to throw our bay scallops back in there. Get some of this stuff out of the way. Give it a nice toss. Guys, look at this. This is a whole pound of pasta. So again, it's 8 servings worth of pasta. And as you can see, it fits nicely in that pan. And I'm going to show you something else. We're not actually going to plate that one. I know a lot of times I plate stuff. This one I'm going to serve in that pan. So you got a group of people over. You got guests. You're serving up a nice seafood dinner. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes when it's a nice dinner, you definitely want to plate it and you want to put the garnishes on it, this, that, the other. But if you're having a nice seafood dinner, maybe your guests have already had 2 bottles of white wine. They're not going to care if this comes out in the pot, and they're going to be amazed at how this looks. Excuse me. How easy you can clean this pan. Look, nothing's sticking to it at all. You're going to be able to serve right out of it. Go from, well, in this case, I guess, just stovetop to dinner top. But if you had to go in the oven, you could bring it right into the oven. So that is done. Guys, if let's say you're cooking both of these, right? You want this to stay warm. Make sure you turn it all the way off. Throw this lid on. Keep the steam vent open. Let some of that steam get out, but it's going to keep the warmth in there without overcooking it. I let the pan cool down considerably. If you came off of that and you came right off the boil, what's going to happen is that pan, as I mentioned earlier, is going to retain a lot of that heat. So you're going to want to give it some cool down time before you lid it. But in this case, you're not going to need to. Okay, so on to the end of this recipe. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. It's bothering me, even if it's not bothering you. Okay. So I have been simmering this down for, I don't know, like I said, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. That's too much stuff. We've got probably 3 minutes left on this recipe. So what we're looking for is, like I told you, I already took the muscles off of these sea scallops. I'll bring this over to the other pan actually so you can see it. Okay. These are dirty. Yes, I remembered. Not getting anybody sick today. Okay. So we're going to put these scallops in here. We are going to let them simmer in this curry paste, or this curry sauce that we made, for about 2 to 2.5 minutes per side. So scallops, when they're done, will be firm, but not chewy. Scallops also get chewy quickly. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell if you've overcooked a scallop until you've already overcooked that scallop. So it does come with a little bit of experience. But what you're going to want to do is you can actually do it with your fingers or your tool. I don't know if you can see right here, but right here they're starting to split. That's a natural way that they kind of come apart. That's how the meat gets pulled off the shell. What'll happen is when it's cooked all the way through, you'll be able to push your finger into it just real easily, or the back of a spoon, or whatever you've got, and they should slide apart, kind of like salmon. If you guys ever use salmon, when it starts to flake, excuse me, when it starts to flake and it starts to come apart and starts to open, that's how you know that it's done. Your scallop's going to be relatively similar and show you basically the same thing. So normally you would probably serve this curry over a rice. I didn't have any rice today. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's going to be great as it is. A lot of curries are served over a vegetable base as well. So either one of those will work out perfectly if you want to serve this with something. I think that as it is would be a good meal. But scallops aren't cheap, so I understand wanting to fill the base in with something, cheaper and can kind of fill up the stomach a little bit easier than the scallop does at $24 a pound or whatever it is where you buy them. All right, so with the scallops, just go in here and flip them after about a minute and a half. It's about how long we've been there. Flip them. We want to make sure they get into the curry paste or into the curry sauce. Make sure all that flavor is getting cooked into them. Scallops with most seafood is delicate, so you don't have hours and hours to cook this flavor into them. So you want to make sure that you're cooking as best as you can right there with them, right? These are just about done. They're starting to break apart. I'm going to give them one more quick flip, and then we'll start plating them. Again, we don't want to overcook the scallops. If they go chewy, they've gone too long. That's kind of the rule. They're a little easier in like a saute or a curry like this. All the liquid gives them a little bit of barrier, gives you a little bit of time to kind of catch it. All right, so I'm gonna figure out how to do this with a slotted spoon. Okay. This is not gonna work with a slotted spoon. Haley, can you get me a spoon without slots in it? Is there one over there? Okay. Guys, so this is the end. We are just about done. I'm going to plate this for you. By all means, comment down below. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know if there's anything that you want us to kind of bring to the table for you guys or show you, or any recipes, or really anything you guys want to know about cooking. We are here to help. All right, so for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a good base of the curry and plop in some scallops on the top. You'll see here in a second. I'm only actually doing 2. I didn't remember how many scallops I bought. Looks like I bought enough for 2. So if you had rice or pasta or whatever you wanted to serve this on, a vegetable base of some sort, there would definitely be enough for a third bowl. Since I don't, they would look really empty without it. So we're going to do 2. So you can see those right there. I'm just going to do a little. So this is flat leaf parsley. It's not cilantro. Some people call it Italian parsley. It depends on where you get it from. It is a very light herb. It just brings some freshness to any dish. It's a great garnish because it adds greenness without adding too much earthiness. I know cilantro brings a soapiness that some people really hate. Oh, guys, look. Like nothing's sticking here. Let me get a paper towel and check. So nothing's sticking. You see around the edge where traditionally you'd have a tough time getting that off, right? Especially with a tomato type of sauce. You have a tough time getting it off. I'm just using paper towel. No effort at all. So soap and water is going to take that right off. That's what you're going to want to do. I mention this every time. Please, please, please don't just use paper towel. Use soap and water and wash it like it's meant to be washed. Excuse me. We do have a lifetime warranty. that comes with these pans. The number one thing we see is people not washing their pans, and what happens is the oil ends up getting in the coating because the coating isn't 100% smooth. It's wavy basically under a microscope. So the oil gets in there, and as it cools and gets hot and cools and gets hot, it ends up breaking. It doesn't break anything down. It sticks there, and it's not nonstick, right? So if people think these pans aren't nonstick, and really what it needs is just to be cleaned. Let's save you guys that embarrassing call. Let's just clean these pans all the time. If you do see it starting to break down, baking soda and water, make it into a paste, and you're good to go. All right, guys. So spicy scallop coconut curry and a scallop fettuccine with a lemon. Lemon sauce. There's another word in there. It's onions. Okay, shallots. Yes, lemon shallot sauce. Good Lord. Guys, so that's really about it for this week. Next week, I will be coming live to you again with another ingredient. My team's not here to give me the bowl, so I will pick something. It will be fun. If you have a suggestion, comment down below. I'll read them before the end of the weekend. Pick the one I like, and if nobody comments, then I get to decide, and that'll be fun as well. So we will see you guys here next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and I'll see you Friday, probably around lunchtime, and this weekend to go over the deals. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Like always, let me know if there's anything that we can do for you. Thanks for letting me cook for you today. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us. We had a lot of fun. Do me a favor, click that like button, click the subscribe button. If you haven't hit the bell, make sure you hit that. Comment down below. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to bring you another great recipe.